Okay, so far in 3.1, we've talked about population, our sample size, parameters, statistics. Then we talked about sampling methods, and now the next piece is statistical studies. Okay, so we're going to talk about some basic types of those. And to get that started, you'll see on this page we have a good amount of definitions to go through. And I'm going to go through them quickly because your text does such a good job of giving context around them and examples. So if you need a little more of an explanation, more resources, please don't forget about that wonderful OER that you have access to. Okay, so the first study we'll talk about is observational. And this study, no treatment is given. So that might be just, I'm just observing, right? I am just observing how people are sleeping throughout the night. I'm not introducing anything else. I just want to sit back and watch and make some observations. The second one is experiment, and this is when a treatment is given. So we might introduce, medicine, exercise, I don't know, an iPad for watching people's sleeping patterns, things like that. Now, within these experiment studies, there's some other definitions we have to discuss. So there's something known as a treatment group, and this is nice and straightforward. This is the group that receives treatment. Where the control group is the baseline group that does not receive treatment. So, like, I have a friend right now that's in a study, and you get paid to do some of these studies through a hospital. It's with a drug that is not FDA approved, and they're trying to get, data to support the case of approving this drug. And they would give one group no treatment and another group treatment and see if there has been any improvement, right? And sometimes to ensure there's like equal playing field, and I'll get to what I mean by that in a second, we will introduce a placebo. And a placebo is a fake treatment given to reduce the psychological effect. And what I mean by that is if I'm part of a group and people are receiving treatment and I know I'm not, that can really affect the outcome of the study. So if everyone receives a treatment, whether it's real or fake, it makes it this equal playing field, right? And then hopefully it won't affect the other variables in the study. So the placebo effect is the act of getting the treatment may help with improvement. So within this, when you have a treatment group and a control group, they might make it single blind. And what that means is the researchers know who's getting which treatment, but the subjects do not know, hence single. So subjects do not know which treatment they are given. Where double blind, this means researchers and subjects do not know. And subjects do not know which treatment was given. This really does help when it's double blind, because especially if, say, a doctor is really behind this medicine that they really want to get FDA approved, they might have biases and they might lead patients into believing certain things. And because doctors have a lot of power over us because we believe in them, right? So if they don't know who's receiving the treatment, then they can't do that. So it is nice to have a double-blind study. Now, okay, now we're going to go to determining which kind of study is which. So example 3 says, researchers examined health records of thousands of males to determine whether there was a relationship between family history and heart attack. So the main thing you ask yourself was a treatment given? If not, it's observational. If yes, it is experiment. And in this one, it just looks like we only examined health records to look for a relationship. And so that is why, let's just change colors, this is observational. Okay, so 2 says, researchers want to investigate whether taking aspirin regularly reduces the risk of heart attack. 400 people who identify as men are divided randomly into 2 groups. 200 people will take aspirin. So I could stop right there, right? You're introducing a treatment. But let's keep reading because it's interesting. And the other 200 people will take a sugar pill. At the end of the study, researchers count the number of men in each group who have had a heart attack. So this would be experiment. Now, when you're doing your homework in My Open Math, they give you 2 options for experiment. So I'm going to scroll up and go back to experiment studies. They sometimes will say it's a controlled experiment, which they all are, versus a placebo-controlled experiment. The difference is if there was a placebo introduced, then it's going to be the placebo-controlled experiment. Okay? So for this one, so it relates to your homework. Because we introduced a placebo, which is known as our sugar pill, we could also claim this is our placebo. Whoops, that's not how you spell placebo. Placebo-controlled experiment. Okay. That concludes our studies.